The chestburster is the colloquial term given to the infantile, often larval, stage of the species Plagiaris prepotens, otherwise catalogued as the xenomorph XX121. The chestburster is the third stage of the xenomorph XX121 life cycle, and like the rest of the stages of its life cycle, the chestburster is one that inspires terror and fear. This endoparasitic creature fuels its growth from its host's genetic material and its raw organic material until it has outgrown its fleshy encasement and seeks to escape in the most horrific of fashions. While forming with slight differences in overall size and to a degree colour as well. The Plagiaris prepotens larval form is usually a colour resembling something like a jaundiced fleshy skin tone, but this can vary between creatures, depending on factors like the host it was birthed from and the element makeup of the atmosphere around it during gestation, among other factors. A thin snake-like creature, possessing a long tail and short stubby arms, the chestburster usually at the time of birth has not yet grown legs, and its head and dome have yet to detach from the bulk of its body, and a mouth with a set of metallic teeth. Following an attack on a host by a Manumala or facehugger, the arachnid-like creature will wrap itself around its victim and penetrating a chosen orifice with its long flesh proboscis, often the mouth and throat. Once inserted, the creature will begin pumping the bacterial mutagenic precursor material of the coming larval chestburster into the body of the host. As a side note, the facehugger, even after delivering its deadly payload into its host, will generally remain attached to it until the time that the larva within it's large and developed enough that the host does not require sedation any longer. While the method of impregnation and gestation of a larval chestburster is currently understood to be due to the Plagiaris prepotens, it wasn't always like this. Previously, scientists such as Dr. Sora Matsushita believed the facehugger implanted an embryonic form of the XX121, making it and the chestburster the same species. However, the research conducted by Dr. Blue Grace Marsali's aboard station RB232 revealed the nature of the P. prepotens and suggested that the ovomorph, facehugger combination and the chestburster are two separate species, a theorem that has come to be accepted by most respected scientists across the Middle Heavens. The facehugger being of the species Manumala, but containing the genetic material in bacterial-like form of the Plagiaris prepotens that then goes on to generate a cancerous-like growth. Eventually, through the DNA reflex, it steals from the host's genome in order to produce an offspring that possess a near 50-50 genetic information split between its original packet of DNA and that of its hosts. Many have compared the Plagiaris prepotens bacterium to the engineer's mutagenic pathogen known as the black goo. Due to the heavy ties the species XX121 has to the engineers, it's likely that these two substances are connected in some form or another. A popular theory here at the project is that the engineers possibly discovered the Plagiaris prepotens species eons ago. Through study and experimentation with the facehuggers and its deadly payload, the engineers were able to develop their own mutagenic substance that could be used to both generate and destroy life, resulting in the black goo. Or potentially it was the other way around, and the xenomorph XX121 might have been a deliberate or accidental result of experimentation using their genetic accelerant. But it's hard to pick one or the other, as the question of the chicken and the egg comes up. No matter the answer, the fact that the black goo pathogen repeatedly results in creatures resembling that of the XX121, such as the neomorphs, protomorph and predomorph, is too much of a coincidence to ignore. As this embryonic creature develops within its host, it will do two main things to fuel its growth. To begin with, as the DNA reflex occurs and a chemogenetic process between the host and the Plagiaris prepotens occurs, a hybrid creature is created that takes on the advantageous traits of its host, creating an organism that will be best suited for the environment it will soon have to survive within. This tweak of the species biology means that the XX121 can use a near limitless number of species of host in order to produce a chestburster that will suit any environment and/or situation that they need to overcome. The DNA reflex is usually seen in mostly subtle traits and changes. Sometimes, though, these traits can be more pronounced, such as with human-spawned XX121s. A human host generally means the xenomorphs born are bipedal, possess a larger dome and a greater level of intelligence. The runner spawned by a dog results in a beast that is quadruped at birth, lacks back dorsal tubes and has a longer and more powerful barbed tail. The gestation process sees the host cells in the area of the infection of the bacterial P. prepotens become disrupted. Eventually, the mutagenic substance unbinds the host's DNA, beginning to cut parts from it, integrating it into the developing creature's own base xenomorph genome. As this creature grows from a small clump of cells to a larval-like tumor, the creature feeds off the biological, genetic and cellular materials of its host, stripping you of the very materials you need to survive as it grows. The embryo sprouts out branches of macro and microscopic tendril-like roots that absorb nutrients and materials throughout the host body, moving out from an embryonic sac surrounding the growing beast. These roots leach into the host's vital organs and tissues, eating away at them, breaking this material down and using these substances to fuel its rapid development. Human hosts complain of hunger and thirst following their reawakening, post the face hugger's voluntary removal. While under study, these complaints are likely linked to the exhaustion of reserved biological energy and loss of biomass during the chestburster's development into maturity. The full gestation period takes a varied amount of time. Usually this period is a few hours, but canon has been observed to take up to and exceeding a day. Longer gestations are generally the result of a premature facehugger removal, or due to the type of chestburster developing, but we will go more into this statement later. After gestation has completed, the creature needs to next earn its nickname. First of all, the chestburster releases a number of enzymes to slightly weaken the tissues and bone in its surrounding area in the host, aside from the damage caused by the creature's borrowed biomass. This helps assist the creature in breaking free of its fleshy prison with much more ease. And after it has taken everything it can from you, it violently and brutally erupts from the chest cavity, causing an agonizing and painful end of the road for the host. Before the moment of birth, most hosts report feeling the best they ever had. This may be a chemical released by the creature to put the host at ease, so there is little resistance or notice for the creature growing presence in these final moments, beyond just breaking through the host ribcage, cracking and splitting the sternum and ripping through the flesh above it. If this wasn't enough to kill the host immediately, then the combination that the creature pulling out from its embryonic sac, resulting in the roots ripping the internal organs and tissue of this victim apart, should finish the job. This process causes massive tissue damage, blood loss and organ transformation. Whilst one chestburster is the standard for most gestations, that is definitely not a rule. Twin and even triplet chestburster have been observed coming from a single host. If these siblings detect or surmise that their counterpart is weak or runtish by any means, the strong will attack the weak, a terrible display of aggression and dominance that drives this species. The chestburster acts to escape as quickly as possible in order to ensure that it can rapidly move to a secure location where it can further mature. However, if left undisturbed after its birth, it is likely it will consume further materials from its host in an ideal situation for the creature, like when in its hive structure or no other hostiles are present. During the birthing process and the time immediately following is a type of defense mechanism. The creature snarls, hisses and squeals while spraying blood and tissue in all directions. As this occurs, the host toils, convulses and spasms as agonizing pain overcomes them, feeling their internal and external body being destroyed by the second. This act is a terrifying and horrific event to witness by anyone or thing around it. Any hostile around this event is sure to be shocked and awed by the event, giving the chestburster enough time to flee, finding a safe and secure location to continue its maturity into a stage 4 XX121, where they will rapidly ingest both organic biological materials but also inorganic substances like metals to increase their mass but also fuel their rapid growth. The final step in the stage 3's life cycle sees the chestburster shed its outer skin. This further exposes the infant to danger, and so the creature will quickly cocoon itself in its own resin secretions, beginning the metamorphosis into a stage 4 xenomorph XX121. If the birthing pathway is obstructed, then the creature may opt to move around within the host's body in order to locate another way out. Removal of a chestburster in utero is quite difficult, if not nearly impossible, if the survival of the host is the desired goal. While extremely difficult, surgical removal of the chestburster with the survival of the host is possible. During the surgical removal of the gestating creature, it's usually the case that the host will expire, generally followed on soon after by their parasitic spawn. The notable case to use for an example of the host surviving would be that of Dr. Hollies. Dr. Hollies was infected with Plagiaris prepotens whilst aboard the Ryder-Bearer station. The eventual chestburster that developed within her was of the queenburster type. Whilst extremely difficult to pull off, with the assistance of Zula Hendricks and Synthetic Davis, Dr. Hollies was able to perform a multi-hour delicate surgery to remove as much of the biomass of the developing chestburster as humanly possible. Hollies was able to survive, however was left extremely weak after the ordeal. In this unique case, both life forms survived the process of the removal. Later, though, it was revealed by surgeons of the Weyler Newtoni Company that Dr. Hollies, days and weeks after the procedure, still possessed remaining biomass from an incomplete removal process. These doctors would extract and later provide these materials for use by the company to either grow a new chestburster or clone further XX121s. It's likely that this remaining biomass was the smaller root-like tendrils that move out from the creature's embryonic sac that were too small to remove during the initial surgical operation. It's unknown if left to sit in the body of Dr. Hollies what this remaining biomass would have resulted in. It's possible that if left, this mass could potentially grow a secondary chestburster. However, I think this is highly unlikely. What's more realistic is I think some kind of disease could result from the immune system attempting to attack these materials. It's also possible tumors or cancerous growths could develop from these masses, or simply the host might expire from something like organ failure from damage already done to their body during the gestation process. More study is needed in this area. The larval chestburster is by far the most vulnerable stage of the XX121 life cycle, and so is easily killed if tampered with before gestation completes, as well as if it is captured shortly after birth. A gunshot, knife, incineration, etc. would all do the trick. The chestburster stage can take many forms and variations. Some of them are simply XX121s that are born from a non-human host, developing at a different rate and with still physical differences. Others are of similar appearance, but still a separate species to the standard XX121. XX121s born and gestated from quadrupedal host organisms will result in a chestburster fittingly named the Bambi burster. The Bambi burster gains its name from the cartoon character originating from Earth. Birthed with all its 4 limbs already formed and head dome detached from its back, the Bambi burster is far slimmer than its standard chestburster counterpart and move at incredibly fast speeds as a quadruped. Queen bursters are another story, a stage 3XX121 in the larval form that gestates over the course of a few days. This specific chestburster type is born already partially formed, skipping the usual 4th and 5th stages of the life cycle. This creature is basically an immature queen. It already possesses a small head crest, both sets of arms and fully developed legs. Due to the longer than usual gestation processes, the queen burster's development is known to cause some adverse symptoms not usually seen in the host, including nausea, migraine, shortness of breath and sore throat. One unique chestburster type was the one born within the V22 facility nicknamed the Lodge on the planet Jericho 3. This variant parasite was spawned from the body of a man known as Hassan. This individual had previously undertaken testing for several trial vaccines and medications, some involved being infected by a disease in order to test treatments. One of these diseases was cellular necrosis. This horrific disease would act to invoke necrosis and spontaneous cell death in a host organism. Whilst being treated successfully for the disease, it would appear that the viral contagion still lingered within Hassan, somewhere integrated within his genome. The next test he would be subjected to by the facility's Dr. Gagnon was chestburster implantation. Not understanding the severity of the testing results, the plagiarist prepotens through the DNA reflex spliced itself with Hassan's genetic code, also integrating aspect of the cellular necrosis virus into itself. This resulted in a xenomorph possessing the viral CN as part of its own biology, having the ability to expel a mist of the virus at a host, as well as possessing bulbous pustules that could be ruptured as to be used as both a defensive and offensive weapon against prey and hostiles. The other studied chestburster type is the imp, or the immature form of the predomorph. This chestburster of the predomorph species has translucent skin and is born like the Bambi burster with its 4 limbs and head dome already developed. The main difference is that instead of being in larval form, the imp is instead basically a small infantile version of the large matured predomorphs. Unlike the other chestbursters talked about so far, the imp will often after its birth, if not feeling threatened, sometimes mimic the actions of the nearest organisms around it, quickly gaining an idea of its future prey. As compared to its counterparts, the imp matures and develops much more rapidly. If you really want to support what we do here and gain a bunch of awesome rewards, consider joining as a Project Akron channel member like company representatives, the Sith Lord 906, Lewis Perkins, and Jack Fleming Jr., or like our team members, Raunchy, Ambrosia, and Carl from the War Game Bootcamp. Until next transmission, this is Project Akron bringing the knowledge and the power directly to you.